Chic West Podcast is heart-opening dialogues for self-identified women on a Chic West, a movement moving forward, striving to live aware, bold, and whole. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Chic West Podcast. I'm your host, Estelle Thompson. Now, before you go on listening to this conversation, which I'm titling Guiding Starlight for the Soul of Nova Scotia, I want you to go back and make sure that you've listened to part one, which I titled A Dark Night for the Soul of Nova Scotia. And I want you to listen to that. And I want to know what you thought about it, whether you want to message me or email me or hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. I want to know what were your reaction, what you took from it. Were you able to just embrace a little bit more what's happening? I just love to know your feedback, because my hope with these is to help and, truth be told, probably to process myself, as well. And as my personality goes, I do this best with writing and speaking about it. So thank you for giving me this platform to do so. And thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate your inputs. Before I go on, I want to make something clear, and hopefully, I'm not sure if I made it totally clear the last podcast, so here I go. I want you to know that there's no right or wrong way to grieve. And this is an idea that I reiterate all the time with my Chic West group, my members, is that there's no right and wrong way when it comes to grief or soul work, and that it's slow work. It's slow, and there's lots of patience around that. There's a quote I love from a favorite poet of mine. His name is John O'Donoghue, and it says, "Life is a growth in the art of loss." And I love that, because it's really, really is that. And, this is poetry and all this. Like, this is the stuff I have learned and still learn every day, that like teachers are present in our lives in many forms. For example, like poetry and my studies in yoga and symbols and painting flowers, which I've done a ton. Like, flowers have been pouring out of me lately. And it seems that in grief filled times, there's like flowers pouring out of me, or like meditating in front of sunrises, like all this stuff, like the experience stuff. That stuff has taught me more than any grief book or my master's in counseling combined. Another thing that I'm learning, I've learned, is that to not be afraid with the waves of sadness or thrown off. And I've been really much like riding the roller coaster ride. Like, one day I'm fine, and then the other, it's like, it's like hitting me again. And one day I'm super numb, and then the other day it's like I'm fine. So, and just to just let it unfold. Unfold has really been an important word in my own grief journey. And when you think of sadness, to just think about integrating it and welcoming it. And it's like, it's dancing with it almost. And I love this image of grief. Like, think of grief like a garden that needs tending. And lastly, to look and listen and connect with other people, that are in pain, really can help us heal our own. So the main message of part one was that grief is love and love is grief. And they're both one and the same. And I hope you were reminded of that. So my intention for this podcast is to share my toolkits for transitions, just like these, like transition. And if you don't know what I mean by transition, go back to part one, because I go about this, at length. And I want to share with you today, easy, tried, tested, my resource. I always go back to this stuff, whether I'm working with clients, on myself, with groups, in workshops. So this information is like really, really gold. And I feel really propelled to share this with the world so everybody can know how to take the hurricane force of grief and, use breath and move and write and paint. And in designing and creating this class for y'all, like these grounding tools, it was really important that I make these like really easy. So you don't even ask yourself twice if you can or cannot do it. And also not just that, but make it so that you can teach others, whether that be your kids or, your family members, like anyone, you can teach those tools to them. And I feel seriously, if you only take like one thing out of this, I'll feel I've done my job right. So, and now, for an important disclaimer. So the tools I'm about to share, they're by no means replacement for your immediate and physical support system. I'm talking about your secure and safe people, whether that be like a supportive partner, a therapist, a best friend, a parent. And in extreme cases, these exercises are not to be used without the help of an experienced yoga teacher, a therapist, or a physician. Also, 1 to 2 minutes for each exercise is just plenty to start. Lastly, these exercises are by no means a way to fix your situation. There's no fixing here, okay? We're not putting a Band-Aid. We are engaging with its material. The tools are meant for you to connect, empathize, look, and listen to the feelings behind the experience. All right, are you ready? Oh, I'm ready. So the toolkit includes, I'm going to share with you some breathing exercise, some hand variation, like hand shape we do, and we can breathe with the hand variation, some yoga, of course, affirmation, and some mindful art, and finally some journaling and hashtag BTW. This is all in your grounding toolkit, and this program is free all month this month in my online yoga streaming site, so do check that out. It's also in the show notes of this podcast, okay? So as a yoga and mindful art teacher, I've seen firsthand the effect of how yoga and art can heighten our tolerance to discomfort in myself, but also in my students. So much so that I sometimes call it post-traumatic growth disorder. And so I wouldn't share these tools if I didn't know they worked for many people, including kids. So this is my chance to teach you all what I know. And in part, when I was talking about the cave. So these are resources when you're in the cave. All right. So we'll start with pranayama, or breath awareness. So pranayama is just a fancy yoga word that means breathing exercise. And in mindfulness, we use our breath as an anchor. And I often use this visual imagery with kids, like you're on a boat and it's really shaky. Use an anchor, and the anchor is your breath, but that's just how we use it in yoga and mindfulness. We use the breath to anchor ourselves, to come back to our center, our core, our soul compass, whatever you want to call this, our internal home. And it's genius, really, because your breath, one, it's always with you. Two, it's easy to access and feel your breath. And three, 99.9% of the time, it's neutral. So you don't think you are good or bad at breathing. And again, side note, extreme cases here, there will be, sometimes we feel shame around breathing, in that if we've suffered really extreme, traumatic things in our lives, taking a deep breath is impossible. So instead of trying to take a deep breath, I would suggest just finding an easy breath, just finding anything that you can. So the first best breath that I always recommend for grief is breathing in your feet. We have this expression in yoga, we say it's where your attention goes, your energy, your vitality goes. And your breath is your vitality in yoga. So stay attention to your feet. You're literally breathing in your feet. Interrupting this special edition of the Chic West podcast to tell you about my May live stream yoga classes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. in a secret Facebook group. We gather at home, but together, to breathe, to move, to play. Yoga is a powerful modality to ground physically and emotionally, and that impacts your entire day. I love to bring themes, poems, and little dance parties into our morning. I'm queen at infusing grounding techniques and mini breathing exercises you can use outside the yoga room to navigate life's highs and lows. On Wednesday night, I teach a level 2 flow class and a live prenatal class as well, amounting to 5 live classes a week you can choose from, providing the best antidote for stress and anxiety. The hour always ends with a chanting mantra that will leave you feeling stabilized, open, and radiate outwards. Sign up today on my website, Estelle Thompson, THOMSON.com, under Academy by clicking the yoga channel. Along with the May Live Special, you get access to my entire library of yoga classes, audio meditation, and programs such as Radiant Heart Program and In the Flow for women. Love you and your radiance too. And you can do this like sitting on a chair. You can like uncross your legs and make sure your feet are touching the ground. Or you can do this like just sitting tall, long neck, proud chest, hand facing down, resting on your thighs, and just pay attention to your feet. Seriously, I do this when I'm nervous like all the time and I feel I'm just scattered everywhere. I just breathe in my feet. Where awareness and attention goes, your breath goes automatically. Again, your breath does not need to be forced or deep. Like just hearing the flow in and out and watching your breath is just, that's enough. And keeping the attention on your legs and on your feet. Just a little side note here, not to get too deep in like nerdy yoga philosophy stuff, but in yoga, your feet, they're your roots. They're the roots of your tree. They're the ones that keeping you like really steady and solid. In yoga, it's so beautiful, you guys. Your body's like a flower. It's like a tree. And so when you exercise this, you exercise literally like the roots of you. Yeah, so that's my first like breathing exercise is just to breathe in your feet. Now, the second one is called release breath. I've shared on this podcast before, but it's worth another mention. It was a breath taught to me by a teacher. Her name is Kia Miller. And you just cup your hands at the level of your heart. And I can do 3 with you here. So you take a deep breath in and exhale. You pretend you blowing a candle. So it goes, I'll do it again. Inhale, full. And exhale, blowing the candle so much so like you feel the wind of your breath on your hands. One more inhale. And exhale to blow. Cool. All right, moving on to hand variation. And then the hand variation, you'll still need to have like some breath awareness that allows you to like, do a pause to just go back to breath awareness a little bit. As long as you know you're breathing, like you're doing yoga. And it's really hard to focus on anything else than your breath when you know you're breathing, right? You're conscious that you're breathing. So that's a little side note. So that we get to do in our hand variation as well. Did you know that when you were in your mother's womb, your heart grew your hands? Your heart grew your hands. Therefore, when you do little gestures with your hands, you instantly heal the heart, but on like an energetic and subtle level. And so this hand variation I'm teaching you right now was taught to me by my teacher, Ashley Turner. Again, on your program, on the yoga channel, all the pictures are there. So if you're a visual person, I really recommend you go on the program. But you interlace your hands, so your index, all your 4 fingers, and then the thumb. If you're a woman, you will take your thumb on top of the right, and you can just lay your hands there. Again, have a long, spine, tall spine, and know that you're breathing in and out. Oh, when I'm very stressed, I do the hand variation and I breathe in my feet. So this is how you can like kind of mix and match your tool, your favorite tool, right? Yeah, so that's my first one for anxiety. And then the second one, it's a hand variation. And it's called hand variation for freedom. And this one, I love this mudra. Mudra is a fancy word for head variation in yoga, but it was taught to me. I don't even know who taught it to me because it's been so long ago, but it's kind of taking the shape of a bird. So look at your hands right now. Take the right hand under the left and just have your hands on top of one another, and you'll cross your thumbs and you'll have your palms at the chest, and you'll see it'll feel like you're doing a bird with your hands. And again, to just breathe in your heart, long, deep, long, doesn't have to be deep again, but just slowing down the flow of breath, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, all that good stuff we're looking for, okay, to have your body at rest, to drop the frontal brain into your heart and down even into your feet, okay? Now for the rooting exercise, so we're into the yoga part. Obviously, I'm not going to start teaching like a whole sequence here, but a rooting exercise I absolutely love. I just sit on my sits bone. This one is really nice to do outside as well. So I get my sits bones down on the floor. I extend my legs out. You could do this cross-legged as well. You can take your hands onto your thighs and you press your hands on your thighs. And then you can press your hands down on your thigh and just do that and create some warmth. Again, like pushing almost the roots of you into the ground. The next thing I do is I just look around the room that I'm in. As I look around, I kind of orient myself, to the here and to the now. I can, from that kind of self-inquiry place, around, and sometimes it's hard for me to not look at the dirt around my house or whatever, but just take that in, just be a witness of that. And then you can close your eyes and just bring that self-inquiry inside. So the same thing, you were looking around your house, now close your eyes and bring that self-inquiry inside. This month, my program, Grounding Tools for Transition, Yoga for Grief Relief, is completely free of charge on my yoga channel. Listen to part 2 of this special edition podcast and go to estellethompson.com under Academy and sign up for the yoga channel and get this program no charge. This is completely free. There's no gimmick, no anything. And through this, access my most tried, tested, and true self-healing tools for transition, breathing exercise, hand variations for anxiety, rooting exercise, mantra, and mini art lessons for grief relief, together with our tools and thread of choice, Nova Scotia. We breathe in not only for our lungs, and our hearts, but for the lungs and hearts of our entire province. Go on now. Go get it. Bye. Again, for extreme cases, you wouldn't be able to close your eyes or anything. Just have them half closed. And then from here, I to take my hands and I just press them on my arms. And so so that's the rooting exercise. And then the other yoga I have for the grounding tools is Shavasana with a blanket. And Shavasana is corpse pose in yoga. And it's a resting pose, obviously. It's a pose that we do at the end of every class. It says to be the most important part of class because there's power in rest, right? And with the blanket, I know some of my students, they have this heavy blanket thing. So they've been doing this. They just have their back to the earth and have their heavy blanket on them. And you can even have your hands on your belly or your hands on your heart. And you bring back that really conscious, knowing breath. You could even breathe in your feet from there. So when you connect to the earth, you connect to the denser parts of you. And again, the Shavasana with the blanket, super restorative. And, remember from part 1 of this podcast when we talked about grief being heaviness, you connect with grief when you just allow yourself to feel the heaviness in your body. If you're on your back and you just let your bones sink down and close your eyes and let everything sink down in your face. And you're essentially, you're letting grief be chief, when you do that, and teach your body to not be afraid of what's dark inside you. And I know these seem so simple as I go through them, but man, they're powerful. They are powerful. And even if you could just do like one a day or something, that is grief relief. Moving on to affirmation. In the documentary, I talk about, it's episode 5, I do believe. And I talk about one of the first mantra that's ever taught to me. And it was breathe, relax, feel, watch, allow. And I could either write this in my journal or repeat it quietly to myself, or perhaps I perform one of the above exercise, whether with my hands, whether with, breathing my feet. And I'll like do a breath to each word. So I'll go breathe, and then an inhale and exhale, and then relax. I'll go inhale and then exhale and feel, inhale, exhale, and so on. And again, not forcefully inhale, inhale, because when we force the breath, it's almost like we are tricking our nervous system into thinking we are overwhelmed, which is the complete opposite of what we're trying to do. So soft and slow, deep if it's there. If it's not, it's fine. And just trying to just let it be. Yeah. And one of my other favorite mantra, I did it this morning actually with my my live Facebook group. It's be here now. So that mantra is, I've been using it for years. There's a beautiful song by the beautiful chorus that sings it, and it goes, be here now, be here now. And you can just hum it. If you want to sing it, you just go like, I mean, there's so many mantras I like, but I think it all comes back to, being here now. Now for the mindful art part, I got 2 exercises. First, I got the exercise I call doodle yourself free. And the other exercise is called the dots and line. And like, seriously, you can doodle anywhere. You can doodle on a napkin, on a corner of a newspaper. I have a free Marks and Doodles guide in that program again. So go check that out. It's a little 5-day thing where we go and doodle together for 5 days. Just doodle anything like spirals, circles, line, like an uninterrupted flow, meaning you do it without even don't stop to check your phone. Just do it. And maybe it's best to time yourself for 5 minutes and just this, doodling, it wakes up your right brain and it makes new creative connection. It calms you, releases you. For me, art releases something in me instantly now. I get to access a part of myself that is, whole and energized. And by the way, these are the same parts of your brain that you access when you do yoga, just so you know. And my other go-to exercise when it comes to mindful art is just dots and lines. So get your dust out of the watercolors and start painting dots and start painting line. Again, uninterrupted flow of painting. There's no rules for colors. There's no rules for size. And if you want some of that, my art channel is always available for that. And lastly, journaling. Oh my, I know it's not everyone who's kept the diary since the age of 7, but I have. And I do understand it's not natural for everybody to write down what's going on. But for me, it just makes me feel better. And, you don't have to share it with anyone. If you're not into writing, I know some of my students, they take their little voice memo app out of their phone. So that could be some help. Maybe think of it like the doodling exercise where it's uninterrupted flow. You can do the same with journaling. Think of it as a dump. And that's actually how I'm calling it in the Tools for Transition. It's a grief dump. And also I would recommend, to not think of writing anything deep in it. Think of it as in yoga, we have this term. It says it's called chitti britti, and it's really just a fancy yoga word that, talks about the fluctuation of the mind. So just write what's on your mind, what's happening. And sometimes I do that, and for an entire page, I'll just write just silly stuff I've left my clothes in the dryer. I should really get them, all the superficial stuff. And then once I get that out of the way, then it's the deeper stuff that comes out. A gratitude journal. Gratitude has been said to be the highest form of yoga. So I just like grief is a muscle, courage is a muscle, well, gratitude is a muscle as well. And the more you practice this, man, you get so strong at it. Yeah, gratitude makes the world a magic place. So you have it. My most trusted and easy way to engage with grief. That wasn't so bad, was it? Through all this, there's definitely like freedom to be found in discipline for sure. And perhaps I would advise put some constraint, like, okay, for like 7 days, like a week, I will write in my journal, or for 3 days in a row, I will lay on my back with a blanket on myself, or, and just let myself just be there. These are tools, but just how you'll use them, that's, really up to you. And one more thing, self-kindness is so necessary. Symptoms of grief work are very real and touch all aspects of our lives: physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual. So I hope you honor what's going on as you go through these exercises, like drink loads of water, have healthy filling meals, rest, and move in a way that makes sense to you, like today and for years to come. Self-kindness is really necessary when it comes to grief work. Notice what's happening without any judgment is essential. And there's going to be judgment, but it's going to be there. And just watch it. Just say it. And don't try to like get it away. Just, it's there, it's part of me too. The inner critic and judgment, it's part of me too. For some, when we are in acute phase of transition, doing a lot of breathing exercise, yoga, even journaling, it can be too much. So kudos to you for the willingness to want to unearth things that you perhaps don't speak of on the daily or ever. This is why I recommend doing like a minute, 2, 3, 5 minutes for it to start the shift. Perhaps just sitting on the side of your bed, breathing in your feet right before doing anything in the morning. And the thing is, like, to be exposed to it like over and over again, that's what creates the release. I call it, small daily acts of bravery, and find the heart pace that's right for you. And this is what matters, because the exposure will create the lift, the softening, and maybe, and hopefully, I say this with confidence, the release. If the tools presented seems completely out of reach to you and you feel completely helpless, I recommend you connect with a mental health professional. In some transitions, individual may develop complicated grief, and support is always available. If you go on the Nova Scotia government site, there's tons of helpline. And you can always email me at info@estellethompson.com, and I'd love to refer you to, I have a list of trusted professionals, such as like yoga therapists and psychologists, people I really trust. So in the end, grief work is hard and slow work. So pick and choose your tools here. And remember to be gentle, prioritize self-care, knowing what works for you, what doesn't work for you. There is no right or wrong way for your journey into the cave, only your way. And I know I invite you to do these like every day, on the good days and our bad days too. That when the next, wake up call hits, hopefully not a next pandemic or whatever, but, your body will know what to do. Hey there, are you on the fence about joining the May Live Yoga Channel site on Facebook? Here is a testimonial by one of my students, Susan Clark. She said, "The Facebook Live Yoga channel is easy to follow and very uplifting during these difficult times of COVID isolation. Estelle is very inspirational, knowledgeable of the art of yoga, and a motivating teacher. I highly recommend her classes. What are you waiting for? Sign up today through estellethompson.com under Academy, and then just click Yoga Channel. See you on Facebook." I'm a self-titled grief ambassador, and I can now see the many gifts my son Tommy left me in dying. For one, I get to be close to death every day. And this intimacy keeps my heart open, bouncy, flexible, and durable. Art and yoga is giving me the self-regulating tools I need to heal. I get to teach that and be well in my body, my mind, my soul. And these tools, they get to be my drug of choice. And the more I do this myself, the more I want to share them with others. I think that's just natural, you know? The fact that you're doing this, like everyone is affected by that. And it builds resilient families and communities. Looking at grief straight on is the best kept secret to amplify your magic and living your life full and free. I wish it for you. A privilege to witness your unfolding always. Thanks for listening. Hope this helped. Bye.
This podcast was produced by Tosh Taylor of the Podcast Hub Productions. Find her online at podcasthub.ca.